All right, welcome back. My name's Tarek. If we haven't met before, I'm the founder and creator of this program. I don't want to make this too much about me. I do want to share a little bit about my story. Just for some of you, I don't know how you landed here or if you've ever seen any of the content, my content, or heard my story or not, but I think it'll be a helpful reference point as you get started into the program. So I signed my first franchise agreement 8 years ago, and at that time, I literally knew nothing about owning a franchise or running a business with employees. I simply was looking for a way out of corporate America and to eventually replace my income as a financial advisor. And then since then, my franchises have generated millions of dollars in revenue, have been recognized numerous times for outstanding performance in a number of categories. And I was chosen as a top franchisee to speak at our annual conference, along with both of my stores ranking in the top 10% nationwide in numerous categories, and just being known as the guy who gets shit done. So when I was buying my first franchise, I noticed that there was a lack of quality guidance on the process of buying, owning, and scaling franchises. So I started to make educational content on YouTube, just sharing my experience. And that led me to building one of the most watched franchise YouTube channels on the internet. Now, I noticed the same challenges popping up as people reached out to me online, just not understanding how franchises really work, confused with the over 4,000 options, what are the good ones, having a hard time finding the right franchise, and then people being really sucked into bad franchises by either poor decision making or really good salespeople selling a dream that didn't exist. And so I just decided that I wanted to do something about it. My initial content that I started making is really just designed to help protect people from making bad decisions in buying a franchise. And that was really the original intention. And so now if you just type in the word franchise business in YouTube, probably my videos will pop up first. Outside of that Shopify ad. So if you type in franchise anything, you'll probably find me on YouTube. At this point, this screenshot's a little bit old, but at this point, I think I've got about 25,000 subscribers or so and hundreds of videos posted. So it's a great resource as you just continue along this journey in the process. So this is where it all started. So when my wife and I signed our first franchise agreement, actually there wasn't even any equipment there in that lot. We actually signed our franchise agreement and signed a lease to open a store right there in that picture. You can see where the tractor is on the right. They hadn't even built the shopping center yet. And so I'll share a little bit more about the story, but that's how our journey began. And so as the months and years actually went by, it actually was 2.5 years from when we signed our franchise agreement to when we got open because of the fact that the shopping center wasn't built. But we wind up being in that building right there that is being constructed, and now you can see it up there on the left of the Dunkin' Donuts. That was eventually when the building was constructed. And that was doing build out. As you can see, I'm still in my work attire there in that picture on the left. I can't remember the last time I've wore a suit. It's been years now, but I used to wear one every day to work. And those were two guys from corporate, from the franchisor, who were there just giving guidance on the build-out process. So that was when it was just on the left-hand side, just a vanilla shell is what they call it. And then on the right side, once construction got built out, and then eventually this is what that space looked like. That was our store. Pretty cool, and wow, crazy just looking at this picture now, just to remember what that was like walking in when the store was brand new. That was us, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks later when we had our grand opening event and a bunch of people there coming to just support and celebrate. These were a couple pictures on the left-hand side. That's me and my wife in the store in the pink polo. And the other picture was just of some of our team. And I have my store manager, assistant manager, and some of our first employees there. And I wound up being featured in some articles, some franchise articles that the franchisor had recommended that I be featured in, just because of some of the early success that we were having with the franchise. On the right-hand side, that's my family there. So I am a family man. Family is very important to me. And I think about it a lot in this process of helping people navigate whether they should buy a franchise or even which one to choose. It's something that I take very seriously, given that I know how important it is to spend time with your family, and just when you're doing so much, you have so much to risk, because it's not just you that's impacted. And so that's our son Caleb, my wife Bridget, and our little girl Sophia. That picture was taken a while ago now, so Caleb's 4.5 at this point. Sophia's 1.5 years, and time flies. This was me in the corporate world, and what I left before franchising, I was starting to have a good amount of success in the financial world, had articles written up about me as a financial advisor, but something was just missing for me. I knew I had a calling to be an entrepreneur, so maybe you can relate to that. Maybe financially you're doing well on the outside, everything looks great in your career, but you just have this hole. There's this void that something's missing, and that's what I felt. I felt that something was missing. I really knew in my heart that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so over the span of my 8 years in corporate, I had 9 failed businesses. I tried to start all these different businesses over a span of 8 years. That was a clothing line. I had spent thousands and thousands of dollars on t-shirts, most of which got donated. So that was a few $1,000 loss. But the reason why I bring this up is just to share that I know what it's like to have started things and it not have worked before. You know, for me, franchising was like a last resort, because at that point, my confidence was shattered from trying to start all these different businesses. I had put so much money into different ones, and it was really just really very difficult for me. And so I know that a lot of you going through this program, you may have experienced something similar. You may have tried to start a business before. You may have tried to start multiple businesses before. Maybe you've got, were sold a shiny object or something that just wasn't what you thought it was. And I just want to let you know that I relate, and that was part of my story, and why I do have such a strong belief in franchising now. And so what happened in my mind after all these failures was I started thinking, maybe I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur. I just don't have what it takes, or I just don't know how to build a business. I don't have any, actual business experience, or I don't want to keep putting my money into businesses just to see them go down in flames. Maybe I'll just get another job and I'll just do a career change. And then just really asking myself, can I actually replace my income, yet alone thrive as an entrepreneur? And so maybe these are all things that you're thinking about in your head too. Maybe not. But I knew that it was my dream and calling to be an entrepreneur. My aha moment was when my buddy back there, who at that point had a business doing about $5 million a year in sales, really spoke his vision into me, saying that, hey, I really think you could be a successful entrepreneur. I think you should be making $1 million a year with your skill sets. And that just rocked my world. But anyways, that caused me to go out there and find franchising, because I realized my skill sets at that time and that I could follow a proven blueprint and game plan, right? If I wasn't going to be the guy to figure it all out on my own, but I could follow a system. And so it goes back to that picture, right? The franchising gave me the blueprint. I didn't have to figure out all this construction. So I'd never been through anything like this before. I had no idea. The fact that I had the franchisor, they created the plans, and it was step by step. I had a whole checklist, right? The general contractor had built many stores before, and so I just followed the blueprint every day, weekly calls with the franchisor for construction. I was never confused on what I really needed to do next, right? And again, those were pictures of our store. We wound up doing $470,000 our first year in sales, which is pretty cool. We got profitable in the first 2 months. And so it was just a huge deal. So the question is, can you do the same thing? Is franchising even right for you? If so, what are the quote unquote best ones to buy? If you already know me, I hate that question. How much money can you make? Can you even afford to buy a franchise? how do you even fund a franchise business? And so I'm glad you asked. We're going to answer all of those questions. Let's go ahead and hop to the next video where let's first talk about why people even buy franchises in the first place.